Theresa Ray of Ocracoke tells us about fishing trips when everything didn't go exactly as planned. What is like the fishing trip from hell?
Oh.
You know, what is the worst stuff that goes wrong?
Oh, there's several that come to mind. One, it just went to hell. I had it was when Hardy and Jesse and myself were fishing pound nets. And it was just a fishing mishap. But I just felt, whatever, you have that little inner voice.
Right.
I felt like an uneasiness about the day, and I was like, it's kind of rough out there, and I was still new to it, but I was like, I could do it. I'm just going to go and do it. And we get out there, and the whole time I'm just like, something's going to happen here. I don't feel right, but, we go, we do it. First pound net, it was fine. We get to the second pound net. Stingray comes in the boat, busts through my boot. I got a barb stuck 1.5 inches in my foot, and it broke off in my foot. That was pretty bad. But
okay, so how do you get the barb out?
I think we finished pound netting.
Priorities.
Priorities here. We didn't make it to the third net, but we got finished with the second one, tied up the tunnel,
And did this hurt?
Oh yeah, at that first you're just in shock and adrenaline. You're like, stuck by a stingray barb, and I remember just looking at Hardy, and he can look in my eyes and be like, uh-oh, and then all of a sudden I was like, like just intense pain, and he realized that the barb was broken off, and you could kind of see it. It was this foot right here. It was kind of sticking just barely out of my boot, and so he was like, don't touch it. And hot water is apparently what you need for a stingray wound. And, so Jesse and Hardy are scrambling to, get things done and let's get back in. And they had to cut my boot off and then just fillet my foot open to get the barb out. The doctor or whomever at the clinic did it.
I was wondering if Hardy did that.
If he did that would be, if he needed to do it, I'm sure he would have done it for me. However, I'm thankful he did not. He's a fisherman, not a doctor.
Right.
But no, and they just had to fillet my foot open and get the barb out. And of course, it's a barb, so it goes in, and the barbs are like that. So when you pull it out, it's quite painful. And with those things get left in the foot that can cause, abscess. And 9 months later, I had a little bit of gangrene. I had to have my foot reopened, and they had to scrape my toe joint. But after that, it was fine. After that, once all the bacteria was out, it was easy healing. I'm a fast healer.
I'd say that's definitely a lousy fishing
That was a lousy
trip.
day. But, as far as, injuries, you're always going to have, minute injuries from a fish bone to get slapped in the head with a buoy or something like that. But weather-wise, that can be different. The most we really go out in early summer.
Do you ever get frightened out there with weather?
No. It gets sketchy when you see lightning flash before you hear it. You're like, can we just go now? Let's go. Just cut the net. I'll cut it. Let's just go. But he stays pretty in tune with the weather.
That's good.
I believe he is just like a human barometer. He knows things before, the people on the Weather Channel do. And so he doesn't really put us in danger. He's not totally money hungry.
Right.
He's
but
not
still,
crazy.
You
have to take risk, and you go out there, if it's blowing 35 miles an hour, we're not going to go set nets. We, early summer when the water's still warm and, you can set overnight for a little while still. We fish out in the bight back of Blair's, out of Blair's Channel here, rather than down there. We fish out here for mackerel. And it's a little bit rougher, where we fish down towards the north end, we're protected by the reef.
Okay.
So here's more open.
Exposed.
Yeah, you're within the inlet, a lot more current, heavier seas. A couple times we've gotten caught out there, a northeast wind, about, 15 to 25 is what you want to fish in, because wind moves fish. And it cools off the water a little bit, and so fish are running. And, we've been stuck out there before, where you have 8 shots of 200 yards each. And, the bow of the boat's coming up like this, the bow's dipping down underneath the waves. and you have the net reel, thankfully, and it's just cranking as hard as it can. The anchor, was stuck, weighing down the bow, and that got kind of sketchy because it was like waves are breaking, the bow's going down. I'm like, cut the line, and so sometimes you gotta lose gear, we've lost a few anchors, but anchor life, no question. We have been out there, I guess it was maybe 2 years ago, we were mending the pound net. It's blazing ass hot, and it's that summertime possible water spout, storms. And we're sitting out there just, mending the net or whatever, and I look up and there's 3 water spouts.
Oh, geez.
One of them I can see the water coming off of it, and I'm like, it's probably a mile or, mile and a half, 2 miles away, and I'm just like, hey, boss, there's a water spout or 2 over there, and he just looks up and he's like, all right, let me know when it gets closer. And I'm just like, ooh, are you serious? And he's just like, just don't look at it. Just keep doing your job. He's like, you'll know if it gets closer. And I'm like, okay. So in essence, I try not to be too much of a girl about it. I trust him. It's like when you're on an airplane, don't worry until the flight attendants start freaking out.
Right.
When he starts freaking out, then I freak out. But if he's cool and calm, I'm like, all right, he knows what he's doing.